Frank Wiesner's ploughs are beautiful to look at and beautiful to work with. They're very much a traditional plough, and the nut at the top of the sled loosens the blade. The blade is easily removed. It can also be moved back and forth, so if you're cutting a very wide book, you can extend the blade out so that the edge of the sled doesn't go over the edge of the book, and you can potentially get blemishes on the edges of the pages if that happens. Or you can pull it in short if it's a thin book and you are worried about the blade flexing, though the steel in Frank's blades is highly unlikely to flex. There are a number of ways of sharpening rounded tip blades. You can see what I'm doing is sort of doing a wavy pattern as I go down the stone so that I'm matching the bevel of the point of the blade. This works really well for me, so I'm just sticking with it for now. You notice after I do the beveled side, I also do a quick lap of the flat back as well. The other way to sharpen a pointed blade like this is to get a piece of wood and put a groove in it which matches the radius of the rounded tip. Then load that groove with abrasive, and then you can sharpen the tip in that groove. I'm just going through my grit progression because this blade is really sharp. So I started with a very fine diamond stone, then I went to an extremely fine ceramic water stone, and now I'm stropping. Sharpening is a really important skill for bookbinders, so this is really the first of a series of videos about sharpening for bookbinders that will cover things that need to be sharpened by bookbinders. The next video will be on sharpening an English style paring knife. After the paring knife, I'll do a Stanley 151 spoke shave, and then I'll just do videos as, essentially as I have to do a sharpening job, and I get around to filming it as I'm doing it. If you're wondering where the version of this video is with music, I've decided to stop doing those versions. I'm going to only do one version of each video going forward. The YouTube system just doesn't like the two versions of the videos. I understand that a lot of people just can't concentrate with the music in the background, so the compromise is that I'm going to get rid of the music, or most of the music. If there's long sections of a video where I'm not saying much, I might sneak a little bit of music in. But in general, there's not going to be much music in the videos going forward. So reinstalling these blades in Frank's ploughs is really easy. This one doesn't need any tuning, though if it wasn't quite flat, I can use a little piece of paper to shim it to either lift it up, change the angle, or the level. So I've got a whole video showing how to use Frank's plough, so I won't spend much time on it, just show you how nicely it cuts after it's sharpened. This little plough, whose maker I don't know, is a little bit quirky. So if you do know who the maker is of this plough, I'd love to know. You could see underneath it's got this square bolt attachment mechanism. And I've taken this blade off once just to make sure I could, but second time it's still a bit tricky. So the back of this blade really needs a good flattening, and the oxidation needs to be taken back quite a ways because that will rub off onto the edge of a book. Normally you really only need the flattening right behind the cutting edge of the blade, but I will flatten it quite a distance back from the edge of the blade. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be completely flat, but I do want to get rid of the oxidization that will slide across the edge of the book. Arthur Green has a really interesting video on sharpening the curved cutting edge of a French style paring knife. He takes his waterstones very serious, so it's worth watching just to see him do the waterstone ceremony. But the really cool trick that he uses is to use a strong magnet to use as a pivot point to sharpen the curved edge. One of these days I'm going to give that a try on my hand cranked grinder and see if I can replicate what he does. I'll put a link to the video in the description of this video. I highly recommend checking it out. So I'm just doing the grit progression here, going through from coarse to fine. Now this blade has these side bevels that are up the other way to the rounded end, and I'm not really sure what they're for. I don't think you can't rotate the blade over, so I don't really know what the purpose of a blade would be with the bevel going the other way. I sort of thought it might be for cutting board or something, but I just couldn't work out how to use it. So if you're familiar with a blade like this, I'd love to hear from you to know what those side bevels are for. So I'm just honing the curved tip the same way that I did the Frank Wiesner one, though the curve is much broader on this blade. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you'd like to be notified of my future videos, please hit the subscribe button. If you have any comments, please leave them below in the comments section. And until next time, thanks for watching.